Hello, this is Tom Brewer, president of your Charlotte Firefighters Association, Local 660. I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a while since we did a video update. So a lot of topics we want to talk about, and it was too much to write. So we want to dive right in. One, we're going to talk about April's union meeting. During that meeting, there was a vote taken for a vote of no confidence against the fire chief and the city manager. We'll get to that in a little bit, talk about what it means and what the next steps are in that. Also want to talk about town hall this Wednesday at 9 a.m. And during that town hall, we'll definitely be talking about the topics that we discussed today in detail, give everybody, answer as many questions as we can. It should be a very eventful town hall, so we encourage everybody to participate in that one, share with as many people as you can. And we also want to talk about, and so where I'm going to start off is with a document dump and what that means. And we're going to talk about the Shane Nance situation where he was wrongfully terminated. And I want to be clear, when we talk about this, we're not trying to relitigate this case. We want to talk about how this case affects you and how the document dump that was given affects everybody. So, and you're going to be able to read the documents in the newsletter. There's a link to that where you can, read for yourself and see for yourself. So when we talk about these documents that were released to Shane about a week and a half ago, these are documents that he requested for his Civil Service Board hearing. He requested them over 2 years ago. Let me repeat that. These documents were requested over 2 years ago. Phone records, text messages, emails. None of them were turned over so he could use in his defense of the Civil Service Board. These messages, these documents were also required by law for the fire department to keep, for the chief to keep, for the chiefs to keep. Just like, we take the online training about records retention, records documentation, the fire department the chiefs and them have to do that as well. This is the law we're talking about. Well, anyways, these documents were not turned over until a little over a week ago. And when you read through some of these documents, one thing I want to say about those documents too, when you read through the documents, keep in mind that while Chief Nance requested these documents to use in his defense during the Civil Service Board hearing so he could receive a fair trial, when he requested these, he didn't get them. It took over 2 years to get. But keep in mind, when a Star Wars character, ObiWan Kenobi, requested Shane Nance's text messages, the fire department answered that request in less than a week. So Shane, a real human being, a battalion chief, the senior battalion chief on the fire department, he requests documents, text messages from the fire chief and his command staff for his defense. He doesn't get them for 2.5 years. ObiWan Kenobi, a Star Wars character, requests Shane's text messages. He gets them in 7 days. I don't need to tell you what happened there. It's pretty obvious to everybody that that was malicious. There's no doubt of the intent there to purposely withhold the information so that he couldn't use in his defense. And when you read some of the text messages, just real briefly, you'll see that the story that Chief Johnson told the Civil Service Board, information that he said under deposition, that he says he made it clear it was his decision alone to bring Chief Nance back, that he reconsidered and that he brought Chief Nance back on his own accord. When you read the text messages, they just tell a totally different story. They're asking to stop. They're asking who approved it. They want to know who put him back on payroll. They say the fire chief the fire chief did not approve this. It's crystal clear. It's in their own words that their stories do not add up. But again, don't want to relitigate it. What I want you to keep in mind during that is there's no excuse for that. They could say, oh, well, if we know the fire department's history, they'll make up some excuse like, oh, there was just miscommunication or we're reading stuff into it. But make no mistake, there is no miscommunication. They sat on the documents for 2 years. They should have been given up right away. It should have taken a week, just like it took them a week to give up those text messages, but they sat on them so he couldn't use it in his defense. And no matter what they say, there is no plausible explanation for not turning over the documents that they're required to. And the reason that's important is because we've had other civil service board hearings and other grievance procedures where members have asked for documents and the fire department just hasn't turned them over. You know, we have cases going on now, things that where the individual was in trouble, they threatened to use recordings against the individual. And then when the individual said, yeah, let's pull it because it'll show I didn't do it, they couldn't produce it. Well, then they asked for the recordings for their civil service board hearing, and they're saying that they don't exist. This is a pattern. This isn't a one-off. This is a pattern of them withholding information that the command staff and that firefighters and the chiefs are required to keep, but they are refusing to turn it over. They're refusing to share it with firefighters in their own defense. And there's just no excuse for that. When we look at the Summers lawsuit, and you'll be able to read for yourself in the newsletter, there's a link to the document where the courts sanctioned the city, and they said that the city withheld information. They withheld or destroyed documents. Manager Jones, Marcus Jones, is one of the individuals who in those court cases has refused to turn over, guess what? His text messages, his emails, and his phone records. This is a pattern with city and fire department leadership. These aren't one-offs. They happen repeatedly. The question you need to ask yourself is, what if it was you? What if you needed these documents for your defense? What if your sister or brother firefighter or your son or daughter who got hired on the fire department needed these? You know, we talk about like what kind of culture we're building. This is the culture. We can talk about, oh, we did this, or we have this committee that does this, or we hired these people, or we changed to this test, or we have outside vendors. When you're doing stuff like withholding information, then when you get the information and it shows your stories don't add up, you don't have any credibility because you weren't honest. That's the culture we're creating when we do these things. And that's why, as firefighters, we need to stand up, we need to rise together, and we need to say this is unacceptable. Anyways, we're going to talk about that more on Wednesday during the town hall. I will answer any question on Wednesday that you have, but try to look over the documents if you can in between now and then. The link is on in the town hall. Share with as many people as you can. Get as many people as you can to call into the town hall on Wednesday at 9. The other thing we're going to talk about during this virtual town hall is vote of no confidence. This has been in the talks for a long time now. There was actually a time about a year and a half ago where a group of non-union members started a petition to do a vote of no confidence. I personally was able to speak to some of the people that started this and told them some of the legal implications, and it may not be a good way, what they were doing may not be a good way to get their point across. We're all for having your voice heard. And so that's where we're at, at April's union meeting. It was Tim Bell brought it to the body. It passed unanimous for a vote of no confidence against the fire chief and Marcus Jones. And, you know, part of the reason I'm assuming for this vote of no confidence is things just like we're talking about. The withholding evidence, the inconsistent discipline, all these things. But we're going to talk about that Wednesday at 9 a.m. during the town hall. But keep in mind when we do this, we have these discussions, we won't be the first fire department that's ever done a vote of no confidence. They're actually, they used to happen quite regular. When we did the Labor Management Alliance conference with the fire chief, Shorty Bryson from Miami was one of the instructors that taught the union and command staff. And his claim to fame was he was he thinks he was the only fire chief in the history to have a vote of no confidence against them. And then the next year he worked to make things better and the department came back and rescinded that. So, but anyways, we haven't even got there to the vote yet. We're going to have a discussion on the vote. And really what a vote of no confidence comes down to is you're just saying, hey, right now we lack faith in the current leadership. And that would be Chief Johnson and and City Manager Marcus Jones. That's the way it was brought forward. So that's what we'll discuss. We kind of got to work on the wording and stuff, and then we'll bring it to the body for a vote, and it'll be a simple yes or no, or up or down vote, and we'll have 2 days of voting, but we have to work through all that. And we're going to have a lot of discussion on that before we do it. It's not something that we enter into haphazardly. These talks have been going on for a while. And again, it finally came to the body and it passed unanimously. So the other thing I want to talk about, huge shout out to our IFF president, Ed Kelly. Last week, or a little over a week ago, the Secretary of Labor, Marty Walsh. Marty's the former mayor of Boston. He's now holds a cabinet position in the Biden administration. And I spoke with him as he was walking into a meeting with Mayor Lyles. And he spoke on Local 660's behalf on, we've talked about in some other videos, the mayor is refusing to meet with us because of litigation. She says that we've named her in lawsuits and that on the advice of her legal team, she cannot meet with us. Brothers and sisters, Local 660 has zero, let me repeat that, zero litigation against the city. We're not paying for any lawsuits currently. And in the lawsuits going on now, she has not been named in any. This is classic excuse making. It's what we've come to expect from this city leadership. And again, this union is going to fight for our members. We're going to make sure your voice is heard, and we're not going to let city leaders do and treat members and working people the way they're doing now. So the other thing we're going to give an update on Wednesday too is we've been having a lot of talks with council regarding the budget process. So we're going to talk about that Wednesday as well. Until then, stay safe, stay strong, and stay union. Wednesday, 9 a.m. virtual town hall. See you there.